every Wednesday this year. So we ask that you please keep that in mind and try to do something so that we can get some control of our neighborhoods. Thank you.
I want to thank both of you for coming out tonight. Ms. Hershey? Good evening. Lower that mic down if you want to.
Okay. My name is Jean Hershey. I've lived in Meadow Lane Home Association for 15 years. I've noticed many occasions trying to drive down Lane Drive, and teenagers congregating in the street will not let you pass. One time we just kept on going. Slowed down and kept on going, but they were cussing at us and saying, "You have a lot of nerve pushing through us," you know. And so, you know, you shouldn't be in the middle of the street. We see no arrests made for any of these crimes that are being committed. There's been gunshots on Lane Drive behind us. I don't know even if the police are talking to the parents. Big incident at the swimming pool just the day before yesterday. Teenager taking a swing at a woman who lived on Lane Drive. They were trying to make them leave the swimming pool because they were not supposed to be at the pool without their parents. We have rules about that at the swimming pool. At a certain age, you have to have parents with you. I have my neighbor Bill that just walked in. They've had their AT&T wires ripped right off their house last night. These cables had been put on their house and strung across the yard, getting ready to be buried, and someone has just ripped them out of their house. So they have no TV and no telephone. I noticed the police had told a lot of our neighbors to get these blow horns, and when something was going on, blow the horns, and then the adults will come running. And that's what happened at the swimming pool incident the other night. And I think that's a great idea, to blow the horns when you need help and have adults come running to help out. But I just hope there's something that can be done except telling them, no, you've been a bad child and don't do it again. And then the police leave. Nothing's happening. They don't seem to be threatened by anything, so they're not going to stop doing what they're doing. We've had a lot of break-ins around our area, too. We had our fence put up in the backyard to help with some safety reasons. We had all new windows put in with double panes, so they're harder to break into. But you really shouldn't have to worry about doing that kind of stuff when you want to live in a peaceful neighborhood. It was a lot better when I first moved in, and the property value is going down. People have moved out because of the violence going on, and that's a shame.
Thanks, Ms. Hershey. Ms. Smith, Monisha. Welcome.
Board. My name is Monisha Smith, and I live at 7800 Irwin. In regards to what's going on on Lane, 83rd, 78th in my neighborhood, all over in Raytown, there's nothing for these youth to do. You know, they don't have a place to meet up at. There was an incident the other day at the park over there off of 79th Street. There was some guys, you got the skateboarders, and then you got the black kids, okay? The skateboarders were over there, and they was doing their little thing. Evidently, there was a big fight between the black and the whites. The police kicks the blacks out. I pull up, because a lot of parents was called. I pulls up, and I ask, what's going on? The police wants to tell the black people, you need to leave right now. Okay, but they're here with me, and I'm taking responsibility for them. I want to know from both sides what's going on, because there was kids hitting the other black kids in the heads with bats, chasing them, and whatever. But if you guys can find a place for these youth to go to, or even have patrol out there, you even have the parents responsible for them by giving them tickets for their kids, or ordinance for their, if a police comes to the house, or if they have to call the parents, give them a ticket and make them responsible for their children. Because evidently they're not taking responsibility for their children. My children, when they at the park, my son, the police called me, Miss Smith, your son's over here, what you want me to do? Bring him home. You know, what you want to do? Bring him home. They bring him home. But a lot of parents is not taking responsibility. And for one, there's an empty building over there off of 83rd Street. You guys can make that into like a teen hall, a teen summit place where they can come, computer, do anything after school or during the day when they don't have nothing to do. That will stop some of the crimes in the neighborhood. Because right now they just walking around because there's nothing for them to do. There's nothing here. I call them Raytown punks. That's what I call them. Because if they went to the hood, they wouldn't survive. But here in Raytown, they're stuck here because there's no bus service. There's no way for them to get to the city. So they're out here and they're going through the neighborhoods, terrorizing and doing all this. If you find them a location for them to go and they know that they're safe there, they will come and act civilized there. But right now, there's nowhere to go. So they just walk in the streets with nothing to do. So if you can find them a building, like I said, there's one empty on 83rd Street, that's fine. Get them a building for the teens to meet up at and where they can socialize at. And that will stop a lot of these problems.
Thank you, ma'am. Jackie Peters, is that right? And then I've got one more after Ms. Peters, unless someone else in the audience wants to sign up at this time. Welcome, Ms. Peters.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Peters. I live at 7404 Maywood Avenue. I wasn't prepared to speak, but this is a perfect opportunity. My son was coming home from Central Middle School one day, possibly 6 weeks or so ago. He did have a skateboard, which doesn't mean that you're bad just because you have a skateboard. He was attacked by a group of about 15 kids. Down in the area of Bonetti's, he was hit. He held a fist imprint in one of his jaws for a week. An 8th grade girl held him down so they could beat him. 2 guys tried to retrieve him as he tried to escape. It was videotaped. He called a friend who had already graduated, thank goodness, and the friend came and got him. So he was scared and he would not give up any names for a week. 1 week later, I got the name of the attacker, the one doing the jaw print, the one doing the video camera, and one more onlooker. He didn't want to get anybody that hadn't hurt him really in trouble, and he was scared of all the rest. So then I go to the PD. First, I told him this has happened, but I don't have names for you right now. A week later, I got 3 names, and I go back. They said all we can do is put it out, you know, that there are crowds of kids, and to be on the lookout. A week later, I got 3 names. I go back, and I offer up these 3 names. And the little girl at the counter said, that's not going to do any good. And I thought, oh, I wonder why not. She said, it's been a week. I thought, yeah, but that's not a statute of limitations, you know. So I said, oh, she said, he's not pressing charges. I said, yes, he will press charges. So she says, then go after school, get your son, and come back. So for the 3rd time, you know, I go back. And there wasn't a police report filed, possibly because it was not still in progress at the sitting, but it was listed on a little spiral notebook. And I wanted to keep up with the progress, so later I called back, and they couldn't even find evidence that we'd been there. I asked him if I needed to sign anything. We were told no. And the school principal, when I told her the 3 names I had been given, she says, only the hitter would get in trouble. Even so, she said the school has no jurisdiction because he had realistically left school, was not on a school bus, was not at the bus stop. He was skateboarding home. So later I called officer that had taken the little note, and I asked him, I need to find out the status, if I may, on my son's report. And he said, basically, we left it up to the school principal to handle the discipline. There was never any discipline whatsoever or accountability for any of this. And the officer told me at that sitting when he was writing it down, the youth prosecutor will not hardly take any case that is not a slam dunk. A week ago, the prints would have been very profuse. I could have done wonders with pictures. And I told him, well, on that day, we had planned on going to motor vehicle to get a picture ID. He just wanted to have that. So we did that, and he said, yeah, but that looks like an abscess tooth, you know. And they're very sweet, but they let you know right up front, they're not going to do anything. There is